Hello, and welcome to Skin Goals. I'm your host, Lisa Avalos.
Hey, and I am Kelly Sitler. And we have our special guest today, our principal scientist, Dr. Brian Bodner, to take us all into mineral sunscreens. We're going on a mineral sunscreen odyssey, if you will, today.
Right,
yes?
Demystifying these mineral sunscreens, which are not that mystical when you explain, right? So it's just a matter of that. Happy to be here, by the way. Very happy.
Amazing. And Brian, because we would love to know a little bit about your story before we get into the mineral, sunscreens, the evolution, everything about mineral sunscreens. We really want to get to know you a little bit too.
Sure.
Have our listeners get to know Brian. Mm-hmm. They need to know Brian.
I maybe they do. Well, I do things other than just this podcast, but right now, before this podcast, yes. I say, I'm trained as a scientist, organic chemist, and I've been working in this field, cosmetics, for 12 years. First starting in liquid foundation and makeup, and then moving on to sunscreen. So I've spent more time in sunscreen now than makeup, so I love this topic for sure.
Amazing. Do you use sunscreen every single day?
I use sunscreen when it is available, and that's often because I'm in the lab with sunscreen. So
yeah. I cannot wait to pick the brain on sunscreen, and with all that knowledge that you have.
Pick away. Very happy to share.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Were you educated specifically on sunscreen anywhere in your journey, or is it just a part of being a scientist?
Part of being a scientist, I would say, but there's plenty of information to learn out there. And part of my role as a scientist, I take this very seriously, is educating others about science. And science, it's not about dumbing it down. You hear this sometimes. We're not dumbing it down.
Yeah.
We are simplifying the message to something that anyone can understand. And I'm a firm believer that in science, you can always explain it in a simple way that anyone can understand. So that's hopefully what we'll do today.
I love it.
Very excited to learn all about mineral sunscreen today. But let's talk about that, Kel.
Yeah.
How do you feel about mineral sunscreen during the summer? There's so many choices, right? Chemical, mineral, sprays, lotions, powders,
Yes, it's true. Which do you go to? Because it's different feels, different formulas. I get different things from different sunscreens, honestly. Do you prefer mineral or chemical or?
Currently, I'm really into a chemical sunscreen just because I have a lot of myths about getting the dreaded white cast. But now there's so many different formulations. I feel like I need to step outside my box.
Yeah. I think there's been an evolution in mineral sunscreens. Like just being a consumer who not even in the beauty industry, but just being a user, an end result user, I have seen a huge transformation in mineral sunscreens over the years. And I remember when I was a lifeguard, this is going back when I was 19 years old, I was lifeguard at the pool. And I remember and when I would go to the beach, I'd see the lifeguards, and I always wanted to be a beach lifeguard, but it was just a pool lifeguard.
You were the Baywatch of all lifeguards.
Still guarding lives. It doesn't matter where it is. This is fine.
You did the nose. You did the nose with the triangle with the thick, it was thick. It was, and it was protecting you though. When you're out in the sun all day long, you needed that we knew it was mineral sunscreens, and we knew it was it was going on thick, and you would put it under the eye, kind of like the football player, on the nose, those specific
the war
areas.
Paint, if you will.
The war paint. Yes.
Right, exactly.
Yes, yeah. And we would you'd have to reply. You always have to reply, but it was definitely thick. And now I'm seeing mineral sunscreens, they're feeling different for me.
Yeah.
They are. Are they feeling different for you?
They are. And some of them have tints. There's just so many variations of them.
Yes.
Which we'll deep dive today. So my first question, Brian, is why does mineral sunscreen sometimes create that white cast?
Right. And that's a very good question. Well, and first we have to delineate, we're talking mineral sunscreens, not what the other form would be, the chemical sunscreens. The difference is in what's called the UV filters. These are the little things in the sunscreen that actually screen the sun, that actually protect from UV light. And in mineral sunscreens, these are the ingredients, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. There's only two. If you've used makeup right?
Yes.
You guys use makeup?
Very much so, yes.
When you look in the ingredient list in makeup, and you should see it somewhere, but it's in there usually, in many of these products, we use a lot of colorants. And some of the colorants that we use are white colorants, and these white colorants are, guess what? Zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. So it's no wonder that mineral sunscreens, these are different versions of those type of ingredients, but they are white in other products, so they're going to be white here too. And the important point, and you mentioned this before, is that, decades ago, these were paint. I mean, it was like no different than paint. It's come such a long way in the past few decades that we're now in a place where mineral sunscreens, some of them are almost identical in performance to chemical sunscreens in terms of the white effect that they give, but it's still a challenge for formulators like, myself, our team, and anybody else who formulates in mineral sunscreen.
So cool. Brian, because you have like the cosmetic background too, like did that help you?
Yeah, I've been dealing with titanium dioxide and zinc oxide from my entire time in cosmetics. So that's why I love this topic, because I've been dealing with mineral ingredients for this whole entire time.
So cool. I never knew that cosmetically it was also, but like, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And like, okay, so like you said, like, there's been an evolution in mineral sunscreens.
Sure has.
Like, and like, even if you go back like 10 years ago, like what year is it now? 2024, like 2014.
That would be 2014. Yeah, that's 10,
2014.
Let's do
minus 10.
Math.
I can math.
Math podcast as well.
I can
right.
math. Okay. If you go back like 10 years, like what has been the evolution like from a scientific perspective?
Yeah,
like
the difference is that initially, UV filtering zinc oxide is different than the colorant version of the zinc oxide. Many of these, like the chemical sunscreens, if you read the label on the ingredients, I'll pick one, avobenzone. Avobenzone in any sunscreen is exactly the same. It's the same molecule and it's the same size, shape, and everything. With mineral filters, these are solids, these are powders. And so it's the same chemical compound. It's titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, but just like something like sand, can be a different size and it'll give you a different view. Like you go on some beaches and it's coarse grains of sand, and you go on some other beaches and it's fine grains of sand. It could still be the same exact chemical makeup of sand, but the particle sizes are different in the shape. And in the case of mineral sunscreens, you also have other treatments to them. So there's lots of varieties. And over the decades, that's really been the major improvement. It's the know-how of how to process these UV filters to make them less whitening, and how to formulate them better in sunscreens. And so this combined has really just taken off in terms of the ability to make awesome sunscreens.
That sand thing really did it for me there. Cause like I could go on some beaches and it's like really rough.
Yeah.
And
You know what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Like
right.
Really soft and really like it's.
Well, it makes so much sense. Like when you go to Hawaii, there's green beaches, pink beaches, white beaches. So the same thing with this.
Right.
It could be tinted. It can be different colors, small grains, big grains,
Right.
rocky, whatever.
And they might all be the same because they're the same SPF. So they're giving you the same protection, but they just have different sensory characteristics. Whitening is one of those sensory, and maybe the feel as well is a little different.
Wow. So that's my next question is about color. So how do formulators work with like trying to take down that white cast? Is that why they created like tinted sunscreen?
It is. It is indeed. It's part of the reason anyways. So as a formulator and you're dealing with mineral sunscreen and you're knowing that this is a challenge to try to minimize the whitening but maintain that good protection level, you can do basically three things. You can try to adjust the mineral filters themselves, make them, you can just use different ones, different versions, mix the sand, if you will, right? And have a different mix so that you still have good protection but less whitening. That's one way.
Okay.
The second way is you play with the other ingredients in the formula. Maybe mixing in your mineral filters with a particular solvent makes them less white, or putting them in a particular formula makes them less white. That's the second way. And the third way is to try to deal with the white cast by tinting. And there's kind of some explanation that goes along with that. But I think maybe what we should do is wait for a little after the break, and we can talk more about the tinting because there's a lot more to say about color. Again, something near and dear to my heart from makeup days as well, right?
Great. And that's a perfect segue for our break. We'll be right back. And we're back. So me and Kelly were just talking about during the break about how much we love a tinted mineral sunscreen because it kind of serves for me like a light coverage. Like, you know, that errand day, Sunday, you just want to throw on a sunscreen, but you want a little coverage, a little pick me up.
Yeah.
That's why I love a tinted mineral sunscreen. What about you, Cal?
Yeah, it works almost like a tinted moisturizer for me, or it also give me a little bit of a glow because, like, you know, I'm so pale, like, and it gives me a little even tone even. Mm-hmm. Like,
I know what it's like to be pale. Yes. I know that entirely.
Yes.
Right.
So we're looking for the tint. So we're looking for.
I'm very glad we can provide it for you. Then,
Thank you.
Yes.
But how does it do it? Like,
how does it do it?
What? Tell us more about the tint. We were kind of like starting on before the break, but like, what about
the tint and the glow? We both love that.
Tint and the glow. We'll talk about the tint first in terms of why that's a thing. So before the break, we were asking like, how do we do this? How do we do the magic of lowering the whitening level of mineral filters so that they're very cosmetically acceptable? And I mentioned there's 3 ways, right? You can adjust the mineral filters themselves and use different mixtures, the mixtures of sand, if you will. You can adjust the formula, but then the third way is you can tint to help you with whitening. I want to be clear, you can remove the white cast, you can lower the amount of white cast, the whitening effect you see by playing with the filters and doing the formula.
Right, okay.
The tinting does not lower the amount of whitening in your formula. You don't do this. And I can explain this very simply. If I started out with white paint and I added red paint to it, what color would I get? Pink, right?
Yeah.
You don't get red. You can never get red from that because you have white. You can't remove white by adding color. But what you can do is make it turn into a different color. And so that's effectively why tinting works with mineral sunscreens to remove the appearance of the whitening. Because in again, back in the foundation days, if you look at almost all of the shades that we make nowadays that are skin tone color, there's 4 colors that are used primarily to make that. A few extra, but let's just say 4 for now. There's iron oxides, which are yellow, red, and black. And there's a 4th color. And that 4th color is white. Again, it's these colorants, these TiO2, titanium dioxide, and zinc oxide. And in the mineral filter case, we thought, well, it's white anyways. Why not use that white color as part of making a shade? And so you use it to your advantage to create things like basically a tinted moisturizer-like product with SPF or a tinted SPF product. So it has a nice cosmetic benefit. You guys like to use it, right?
Yeah.
It has a great cosmetic benefit, but still you offer the same level of protection. So it's using this whitening and just saying, no problem. I'll just use it. No big deal.
I really love learning about the different iron oxides. I didn't know there was different colors.
Yes, there are different colors. Different colors of iron oxide, rust, right? You know, rust.
Yeah.
And if you look at like metal, rust on metal can look kind of orangey, can look kind of brown, can look kind of different colors. And that's the reason why, is because it's still iron oxide. It's still the same chemical compound, but the way it's structured and the way it sort of fits together on macro and microscopic levels is the different colors.
Yeah, and I love color. I'm a color girl. And who would have thought that my color has science behind it, right?
Of course it does. Of course it does. This is the most interesting aspect when I was working in makeup, is about the color. I love the color science.
Color theory.
Color theory. We're so into that right now.
Scientists also were like color theorists.
Yes.
Amazing. Yes.
To many aspects of science, there's an art and a science to it.
Yeah.
This is where you get to play, right? You get to be to your own, like, not painter, but we can mix colors. Yeah.
So what are the benefits of a mineral sunscreen? I hear, is it true that it's really great for sensitive skin?
They tend to be really, compare it to chemical sunscreens. If everything else was identical, generally mineral filters tend to be less sensitizing to skin, so they're more acceptable for sensitive skin. But I want to be clear, you can have a perfectly suitable sensitive skin suitable product that's a chemical sunscreen. It doesn't mean that you can't have sensitive skin sunscreens that are chemical sunscreens. It's just that it's a little easier to formulate something that's appropriate for sensitive skin with a mineral sunscreen. But just like you can have some sunscreens that cause you to break out or have a bad reaction in the chemical space, it also is the same for mineral. So it is formula dependent. At the end of the day, which one is best for you is always the same. And I'll say this again and again. The best sunscreen is the one that you will wear correctly, because it's really important that you're not going to get SPF protection that's on the label unless you apply it correctly. And so as we make things less whitening, more appropriate, better shade for you, or a better feel of the product, we are actually protecting consumers better by making a better formula because it encourages you to apply the way you're supposed to.
And that's really important too for whether it's chemical or mineral sunscreens,
Absolutely
right?
True. Any sunscreen.
Reapplying.
Yes.
Reapply and apply correctly, the right amounts, the right way. Spend the time to make it as even as possible. It's important that you consider like this is your protection layer. So make sure you spend some time on it.
And that's important then to like your sunscreen.
Correct.
Yes.
Because you're going to
be spending some
reapply.
time with this one, right? The other ones you can just throw on. Don't just throw on sunscreen.
Yes.
Apply it with purpose.
So if you tried a sunscreen that maybe you don't like, maybe that's just not the one for you.
Correct.
And maybe try a tinted mineral or a different shade tinted mineral or a chemical sunscreen.
Yeah, there's so many mattifying.
Yeah.
Some that feel like water on your skin. So. Right. But the important part is that you like the formulation.
Apply correctly. And this should be for any dermatologists out there, this should be what you say to your patients, right? You can recommend a few, but the ones that's appropriate for your patient is the one that they will wear correctly. Chemical, mineral, cream, spray, whatever it is.
And reapply.
Every day is a sunscreen day. Reapply that sunscreen.
You got it.
Especially going into summer. It's so important when we're outside so much more.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but important any other time. Hey, anyone who's a winter sports person, I'm not. I'm like totally not a sports person. But if you go outside in the winter and you're bundled up, but your face may not be, and what do you get? Yeah, you get wind burn. That's sunburn too, because the snow, the light bounces off the snow. Sure, it's winter time. Maybe it's cold and maybe the sun's not as intense, but it's way more sun that bounces from everywhere. So it's actually really important to wear a sunscreen, not just in the summer.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day is a sunscreen.
So we have a question for the mad scientist.
Okay. I am mad.
What is
Sure.
any cool insights like when you're creating these sunscreens that in the lab that you have for us?
It's really useful to be in the lab because you get to try it right as soon as you make it. So that's a cool part. But no, it's still kind of the same. And again, the insights here is that I love the fact that when you're formulating in the lab, you can be an artist the same way. You're a kind of a part artist, part cook, part scientist. It's kind of fun. You don't have to know how to do, well, you should know how to do science, but you don't have to know how to do all those other ones.
Part of the job requirement.
If you're a bad cook, you can still be a great scientist and a nice artist in the lab. And so you can pull on all those features.
I love that. I love the combination.
Yeah.
And I would love to, maybe you could cook up like a nice recipe sometime and bring it to the podcast.
I would hope the recipes are sunscreens. Yes. You're probably not going to be able to eat these.
We'll take the sunscreen.
We'll take the sunscreen.
Yes. Take the sunscreen.
Great. So Cal, what did you learn today in today's episode?
Yeah, you know what? Like really, I feel like understanding there's different iron oxides. Like I kind of love that. But the sand kind of sticks out to me. Like different sizes that really made me understand how the mineral sunscreens. There are different sizes, but it's still a mineral. Like it's still that
right.
thing. It's just a smaller or bigger.
It's still sand. It does the thing that sand does. So in the mineral filters,
it
still protects, but it's different sensory or different whitening maybe.
Yes,
I love that.
Love it.
And what I learned was I really like the color theory, the artist part, because I love color. And that just makes so much sense to me that obviously it's a white mineral. So it's going to work and play well with other colors.
Right. I'm not an artist, but as a scientist, I can be one. That's kind of cool, right?
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us on our podcast, Skin Goals. And we'll see you all next time.